I think there's something fundamentally strange about television right now. We have more shows than ever before, more platforms, more money, more content. And yet it feels like we're constantly going back to older shows, back to cable television, back to stuff that aired 15, 20 years ago. And I don't think that's just nostalgia alone. I think it's because a lot of modern day television just doesn't sit with anything anymore. There's less nuance, less patience, less consistency. Everything is built to grab you instantly, trend for a week, and then just disappear into the abyss. Which is why shows like Dexter suddenly feel relevant again. I wanted to talk about Dexter for two reasons on here. First, there's been a very real resurgence online for the show. TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube clips. A lot of people my age, Gen Z particularly, have discovered Dexter Morgan not as a TV character but almost as a cultural figure, which is strange given who he is. And secondly, I watched the show for the first time just a few months ago when I was genuinely surprised by how much it worked on me. From the storytelling to the performances to the sheer weirdness of its premise, I was hooked. So yeah, this is gonna have some major spoilers for the show, and if you haven't watched Dexter, pause this, go watch the show, and then come back. And now, for anyone who doesn't know about the show, Dexter aired on Showtime from 2006 to 2013, and it followed Dexter Morgan, a blood spatter analyst for the Miami Metro Police Department. That's his daytime job. At night, he's a serial killer. He kills people who have gotten away with murder, or worse, people the system failed to punish, and he follows something called Harry's Code, a set of rules taught to him by his adoptive father to keep him from getting caught. But here's the important thing: Dexter is not a superhero, he's not Batman, he's not some vigilante fantasy. He's painfully normal. He has a girlfriend, a sister, co workers, awkward conversations, a boring ass routine. You could pass him on the street and never look twice. And I think that's what makes the show even more disturbing. I think one of the smartest things Dexter does is that it never lets you forget who Dexter is. He tells us himself again and again that he's not a good person. He doesn't want redemption. He doesn't think he deserves it. He's just trying to exist in a world that was never built for him. And the show never really fully lets you relax around that. You feel for him and then you're reminded that you probably shouldn't. That tension is the entire show. What really makes Dexter work is that it understands consequences. Everyone who gets close to Dexter is somehow or some way affected by him. Deborah, his sister, starts out messy and loud and full of life. By the end, she's completely hollowed out, emotionally wrecked, a shell of who she was. Rita, Dexter's girlfriend, is one of the hardest characters to watch. When we meet her, she's warm, hopeful, almost gentle, and slowly, without the show ever spelling it out, that light fades. Her death at the end of season 4 isn't just shocking, it's inevitable. It's a show quietly telling us this is what happens when you orbit someone like Dexter. Nothing survives him. And this is the part of the show that I really think people don't talk about enough. Dexter doesn't just kill people, he ruins lives. Anybody who comes close to him, really close, eventually has to pay for it. Look at Deborah. She starts the show loud, impulsive, annoying in that very human way. She believes in justice, she believes in people, and season by season, Dexter destroys that. Not intentionally, but inevitably. By the end, she's carrying secrets she was never meant to know, morally compromised, emotionally exhausted, and completely broken. Being Dexter's sister cost her everything. Then there's Rita. When we meet her, she's gentle, hopeful, trying to rebuild her life after abuse, and slowly, without Dexter ever raising a hand to her, that light disappears. She becomes anxious, uncertain, constantly sensing that something is wrong with her, but never able to name it. And her death isn't just tragic, it's the show telling us the truth. Loving Dexter is fatal. And it's not just them. Batista becomes disillusioned, Quinn becomes corrupt, LaGuardia dies because she gets too close to the truth. Even innocent people, even children, are left damaged in Dexter's wake because Dexter doesn't just exist in a vacuum, he contaminates everything around him. That's the real horror of the show. Not that Dexter kills bad people, but that no good person survives him, too. And honestly, a huge reason why any of this works is, without a doubt, Michael C. Hall. I genuinely cannot imagine anyone else playing Dexter. He makes him awkward, funny, unsettling, and somehow approachable. Not likable, approachable. That's a dangerous thing to pull off, and he never loses control of it. You're never allowed to forget that Dexter is capable of horrifying things even when you're enjoying being around him. That balance is insanely hard to maintain, and Michael C. Hall nails it for almost the entire run of the show. Now let's talk about the ending of the show, because yeah, the final season is bad. I don't think it's the worst ending ever made, but it's absolutely one of the most disappointing ones. Not because it's shocking, but because it abandons the show's own moral logic. Dexter should face consequences. He shouldn't get to walk away quietly. The show spends years proving that his existence damages everyone around him and then refuses to follow through. It feels like the writers blinked, and when a show blinks at the very end, it retroactively hurts everything that came before it. Still, despite that ending, I can't dismiss Dexter because it represents a time in television when shows trusted discomfort, when characters didn't need to be good to be interesting, when stories were allowed to be messy and unresolved. Maybe that's why it's coming back now. In a time where everything needs to be instantly explained, labeled, and moralized, Dexter sits in ambiguity and refuses to apologize for it. And still, despite that ending, I cannot dismiss Dexter because it represents a time in television when shows trusted discomfort, when characters didn't need to be good to be interesting, when stories were allowed to be messy and unresolved. Maybe that's why it's making a comeback now. In a time where everything needs to be instantly explained, labeled, and moralized, Dexter sits in ambiguity and refuses to apologize for it. And honestly, I miss that. So, yeah, if you have watched Dexter, let me know what you think, especially about the ending. If you haven't, watch it and then come back. And if you like this video, like, share, subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel. So, yeah, that's it from my side, and I'll see you in the next one.